information is that are needed for streaming services, and work towards it. It will be difficult, of course, because sometimes it's always technically it's more of a technical notion, and you need to ensure that you have the budget for it, or at least the labor, the people that can help you. But just research as much as you can, because I worked with, and of course the standard was way better than Untitled, because then I got to work with Rainier, who has been my DOP for many years, and working with capable people and people that have great talent, but work ethic, and also great equipment. So if you can work towards it, and that also comes with the merit of your work ethic, that comes with being able to strategize and network well, and that's how I got the opportunity to work with Senga. So it does take a bit of leveraging here and there, but I think we can do it. In this time and age of technology, I think you can do it. You can even shoot on your iPhone. I mean, if you do have an iPhone, it shoots good quality. I think it's just to know what people are looking for, especially technically wise. You can do it. You can do it on a small budget. We've seen it all over the world. I think it's just having enough vuma to do it.
If I could just say one word, guys, sound.
Yes.
Sound. I think that is one of the pitfalls often for emerging filmmakers, that you might have made a beautiful little film note that you can make for yourself in terms of the technical aspect of filmmaking is to pay attention to your sound.
Now, I think if we want to get into those spaces. My next question will be to you, Leon, which is then, how do we use the limited resource to be able to create the quality that is needed out there?
And it starts off in how you plan your production, because if you have a small budget and you're writing a big story, like it's so big, it needs X amount of actors, it needs X amount of locations, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot. So I always say, like, try as much as possible to contain your story. So in the development process already, once you start off, you're looking at, okay, what is the most crucial aspect of my film? So is it the conflict between this character and that character? Everything else is probably just adding to my budget. So how can I contain my story as much as possible? And then how can I limit that story to as limited locations as possible? And then with that as well, you can have a situation where your locations also double up, because movement also has, every single thing has a price attached to it. So if in pre-production, or actually in development, you're already foreseeing some of these things, like, okay, I'm going to move from that location to that location. It's going to cost us both time and finances. So is that location really critical to my story? As I said before, story is king. If it's not going to add to the story, why do I need it? So then you can remove it, and then you focus more on the direction that your story is headed in. Then you are able to control your budget as much as possible and still deliver. And then, like I said before as well, the relationships that you build, the more filmmaker friends that you make, and the more you are able to help them and they help you. There's on my last production, there was a instance where we had to go over time, and the majority of the people that were with me on set were friends of mine, people that we've done a lot together. I'm willing to go and sit. I've even offered some of them, like, hey, I can sit with you while you are writing, and then I'll write with you. I don't need to charge you. Later on, that person, when it's crunch time in production and you've gone over over time and people have to be paid extra or whatever, they are pretty much willing to go like, hey, let's finish the story, and they'll come around you. There's this beautiful moment that happens in film where your teammates will come around you, especially as a director, and you're feeling at your lowest, and they'll be like, hey, let's push on, let's finish this story. And then those are the moments that make you believe that we can actually make it. So all of those little things end up adding up to you having a small budget or even no budget at all and still creating content that's amazing and people can enjoy. Yeah.
Guys, I don't know if you're not taking notes, but I am taking notes in my head. So the one thing that I have realized as an emerging filmmaker is that when we get into the film, we never know, because obviously you start off as a writer or a director or whatever, but eventually you learn that you have to learn about every section, right? Now my next question, Senga, since you were also in charge of all of the shorts at Kuta, my next question is, how important is it for you to specifically focus on one area of skill to develop, or is it essential just to know everything under the tree?
Well, obviously, so I think that, especially in terms of if you want to be a producer or a director, it's important to get an overview of the entire filmmaking process and understanding what each person's job is on a film set. And so that as a director, if you understand what it is that your sound design needs to do or what production design does and what everybody's job entails, you are more able to communicate your vision to the different team members, and everybody can be on the same page in terms of what kind of film you're trying to make. So I think you do need to get an overview of the whole process and understand that. But I also think that, when we all started out on my first short film, I was a producer, writer, director. So we all sort of try and wear all the hats at once. And that's not always a good idea, because that just means you might be spreading yourself thin and you can't really just focus on that one task and put your best into it. So I think that get an overview, and there's no reason anymore not to learn. If you go on YouTube and you just type in production, what does a production designer do? YouTube will give you tutorials. You will have all these sites that give you a lot of information about the filmmaking process. One of my favorite ones is, well, what is it called? I can't remember now. Remember in a minute. Studio Binder.
Yes.
Studio Binder. Go on YouTube and you subscribe to Studio Binder. It has everything from the technical aspect of filmmaking to screenwriting to all of that. So get an overview, but then maybe focus on your specific areas so that you can then do your best in that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Senga was mentioning about I'm running a little.
Studio
No, not Studio Binder. I wanted to add about trust. Like the reason why you are working with the people that you're working with is because you have to trust them. Mm-hmm. So if you're a filmmaker that believes that, like, oh, I can do everything, you'll step on the shoes of the people that you've actually brought in to assist you, and that is not a good way of building an authentic relationship. So the people that you are bringing on board, you are trusting that their talent and is gonna add to your vision, especially if you're a director.